And we are recording. I forgot that I'm going to have to send, you guys are going to have to follow me with the computer while my freshman class is watching through the GoPro. Okay, so I'm taking you over to the joiner. You guys might remember this step where we're getting our panel laid out. Okay. Yeah. So I've cut these boards up. If you remember, our plan said we need a panel 13 by 20. We always have to make it bigger than that. So I've made the boards 21 and I've got enough here. I've got 16 wide. By the time I joint every joint, we're going to lose about an inch. So that's why I've got an extra board in there. Okay. I have went through and flipped the end grain, okay, on each board. So, put this down over here. So, I've flipped the end grain. We want one end grain up, one end grain down, up, down, alternating, so they work against each other, and my panel, as I glue up my panel, will stay straighter. It won't warp as badly as if they were all facing the same direction. So then I numbered them 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I marked the joints. If you can see that, I marked the joints that I need to joint, okay, to make a good glue joint in each joint or each piece. I didn't mark the outsides because they don't touch another piece. So, if you remember, we're going to go ahead and turn on the dust collection system, and hopefully you guys can still hear me. Let's go over here, hit the dust collector. It's loud. So, now I need to mark it IO on each piece. So here we go. Got this nice and straight. This one's going to be an I, O, I, O, I, O. The reason we're doing that, I is for in on the joiner, okay? O is for out, away from the fence. That way, if there's any error, that will take care of the error. Rather than doubling the error, you know, if I'm off a degree here and off a degree here, that would be 2 degrees. That'd make a bad glue joint, right? So we talked about if I'm off a little bit, but I flip the other board, they complement rather than multiply the error. So that's why we do the IO technique. All right, so here I go. I'm going to joint. Start with the first one. I is in. I've already checked the joiner for square. I've waxed it so it slides better. Here I go. So I was in. Next one. O is out, away from the fence. Using the push sticks because my piece is shorter, less wide than the fence is wide. I got to do both sides of this one. O is still out. I is the next one, so it's in. Both sides. We're making these edges perfectly straight. So when we glue them, it'll be a strong panel. O is out. And the next one, I is in. This is cedar wood. the push sticks to keep it up tight to the fence and tight on the table. Last one. And we turn it off. All right, put the push sticks back on the fence. Take all of our boards over to the glue table. I'm going to turn off the vent system. There it is. And I'm going to kill the system as well. Probably won't be using it again today. All right, so let's go talk about gluing. You guys glued up quite a few panels last year, so this should seem familiar to you. All right. I need to get you up higher though. Let's see here. How about that? I think that'll work. Yep, if it stops wiggling. Okay, so we lay out our panels here in order as we had them marked. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. We just jointed all of those, and I've got an extra panel here. Wanted to remind you of a few things. Do you remember how far your clamps can be away from each other? What's the maximum distance? Do you guys remember? 18 inches is maximum. So if you're at 18 inches, I would add a third clamp on a longer panel. And if it's longer yet, we just keep adding more clamps. Our clamps should not be more than 18 inches apart. That's the maximum, so stay under that. If we had a little short panel, 2 clamps would work. The longer the panel, the more the clamps needed. Okay, all our clamps are hanging up over here. When you grab a clamp, you should grab it by the handle, not by this part, because it can actually fall down and pinch you. So you grab it by the handle when you grab your clamps. Okay, so I've got my panel put in the clamps, got the clamps tight. I'm checking the joints. They all look good. I've got a mallet over here. Remember, we've got 2 different types of glue. Green is our waterproof. We use that on the cutting board. That's the only time we really use that glue. For all our other projects, it's the red bottle, and that's the professional strength interior use. Okay, so that's the one we're using for the mini cedar chest. I've got my mallet over here, so if the boards move with the glue on it, I can beat it down. What I want to do is get it flat to our clamps, the straight edge on the clamps. If it raises up, that's what I do with the mallet. Okay, so I've got this thing laid out, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I jointed them. I was in to the fence, O was out, did that, put it back together. That's what these marks are, is the joints that I had to do. So I didn't mark the outside edge. All right, I'm gonna take these clamps off or loosen them. Remember, on your clamps, you always want to open them up all the way, and then they function properly. If you don't have them opened up all the way, a lot of times you'll lose clamp pressure. It'll run out of threads before you get the pressure that you need. So I always open them up all the way, and then they slide easier too. So if you remember on gluing, you leave the first one down. Number 1 is down. I'm going to raise number 2 up. All of them just like this. Okay, if you can see that. And then I add glue on one edge. Come on, glue bottle. My glue bottle's kind of messed up, but that's plenty. And I use my finger. See how I'm going from the inside out so I don't make a mess? You want enough glue to where it's going to squeeze out a little bit. You don't need so much that it runs everywhere and makes a huge mess. So we want to cover the entire edge just like that. Then we put it down and together. This is called close time. We want to get this done within 5 minutes so we can then add clamp pressure, and then it's called clamp time. The clamp time is a minimum of 2 hours. Okay, that's minimum. If we can, we'll leave it in overnight. All right, there's the next one. Put it together, and so on and so forth. Notice I'm not doing all of them. I'm doing them one at a time. That's so this glue gets kind of crusty quickly. Once it develops that crust, it's not as strong a joint. So I'm doing one at a time, working from the inside where I put the glue to the outside, put it together. 2 more. Okay. Got a little much on this end, didn't I? Scrape it down to the other end. All right, one more and we'll apply our clamps. Like I said, the end of this glue bottle is destroyed, so it's coming out kind of fast, but I'd rather it be fast than too slow. Cedar has a lot of knots in it, a lot of what we would call defects, so we want to be careful which boards we use and try to get rid of as